Hello, I'm John Feldt, and this is the weekly water outlook for the Midwest. Well, last week I mentioned that this area of low pressure would be digging over the eastern part of the U.S., and we'd have a ridge of high pressure over the west. And indeed, that is what has occurred. What we see here is now this jet stream digs over the eastern U.S., and it ridges or builds over the west. And that pattern generally over the eastern part of the U.S. here, that would be an area that would generally be cool with lower humidities. And I'm sure you've noticed how pleasantly cool it is over the last several days over most of the area. Now, unfortunately, that might not be the best for growing crops, but it's certainly quite pleasant outside. Nice break through mid-summer. Now, over the west, though, we have that area of high pressure, and that builds warmer temperatures and generally dry conditions. Now, if we look as far as the past precipitation over the last 7 days, I think a good way to look at this is that the areas in blue have generally been dry. That's less than about a ½ inch of rain. Areas in green are about normal. That's about an inch of rain or so. And areas in yellow are the heavier amounts of rain. That's generally over 2 inches. So the general trend here in the upper Midwest, the Dakotas, Minnesota, parts of Kansas, has been quite dry over the last week. Iowa received a bit of a welcome rain here. You can see this area right here. That's a welcome rain, Minnesota and Iowa, an inch or so in a few spots. And then over the east, we've continued this trend of a significant rain from parts of Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, into Ohio, and that area has been fairly wet, not just for the last week, but for several weeks as well. Now, if we look at the percent of normal precipitation, areas in green indicate 25% or less. You can see in the upper Midwest, very dry. Matter of fact, that dark red is only 10% or less. If we get over the eastern part of the Corn Belt, you can see areas in blue, and that's about 2 times normal, the rainfall for the week. Now, little rule of thumb I use is that this time of year, when you have a lot of heat, higher temperatures, a lot of evapotranspiration, it's a lot easier to get rid of extra moisture if crops are healthy than it would be to get not enough rain. So I'm not too concerned with that area of blue right now, even though it's been a number of months in a row. I think it's generally beneficial in most areas. Now we look at the surplus or deficit rainfall. The areas in that lighter shade of yellow is about an inch that has been lost over the last week due to below normal precipitation. Green is a bit above normal. So that'll have to be made up sometime to get us back to normal. So it's about another inch over parts of the Midwest over the last week. Now, if we go over the last 30 days, you can see these trends quite a bit clearer. This is a 30-day percent of normal precipitation, and really that area in the medium to dark red, that's the area that we really do need some rain right now. Parts of North Dakota, a small part of Minnesota, a larger part of Iowa, a small part of Nebraska, and northern Missouri. That's the area where we really want some rain. Now, if we get from southeast Illinois, or Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, much better shape. You see that blue, and for the last 30 days, 1.5 to 2 times the amount of normal rainfall. I did want to show the accumulated precipitation. This is for Columbus, Ohio, over the eastern part. And right here in the middle, this line that comes up here, see if I can draw this straight, that is normal precipitation. So we sort of start here in August, we end up where we are at here today, and you can see below this line, the brown is below normal periods of precipitation, green is above normal, and for the most part, for a long-term average here, over the eastern part of the Corn Belt, precipitation has been holding very close to normal. Recently, spring into summer, we've been running these accumulations, and that's why it's green. But it's not way far ahead of that line, so we have been pretty much right on track or even a little bit above normal over the recent months. Now, if we look over the western part of the Corn Belt and central part, here's Des Moines, Iowa. And you can see prior to this spring, that area in brown. So we were going month after month below normal precipitation. Then as we got into the spring months, we had this period of above normal precipitation, and good thing we did, because that's really helping out as this dry spell has been occurring. And now this is that recent dry spell. So it puts it in a little bit of a perspective, from a long-term perspective, as far as what has been occurring over the eastern part of the Corn Belt and the central and western part. So we do a jet stream analysis for this week and next week. Basically, we're going to continue in this pattern of ridging in the west, troughing in the east. And it's going to sort of undulate back and forth from being fairly strong to fairly modest. But I think the trend is definitely this type of pattern now for the next couple weeks. And that'll be actually a 3-week trend, which is significant in summertime. So the blue is this week. You can see it's not quite as pronounced. And then by late this week, we dig this out. And this is sort of typical. What we do see here is when this type of pattern, little pulses of energy will come down and they'll dig this out deeper. And that's what I see later this week. And then by next week, I continue to see this pattern. So the existing trends that we've been getting in temperature and precipitation, even though they'll moderate from time to time, they do look like they will be persistent. And the most likely chance of precipitation will be along the southern edge of this boundary, right where it's clashing between the warmer air and the cooler air. So this looks like a persistent pattern that's going to last for a while. So the rainfall forecast for the next 7 days, you can see the axis of heaviest rain extends from Kansas across Missouri, Illinois, into Kentucky. And that core of heaviest rain is generally needed in that area. Now, I will say in summertime, rainfall quantity prediction is very difficult, and the models have not been all that accurate lately. So this has been shifting up further to the north, a bit to the south. We'll have to see. Ideally, it'd be a little bit further to the north. Another area of welcome precipitation is right in this area here. If we can get this area here, and then into the northern part of Missouri, that could be a very welcome rain, even though it's more moderate, 1 inch to 2 inches. We'll have to see on that. The models, like I said, have not been doing all that well in that area, but at least there's the possibility over the next 7 days of some precipitation. Now, what's interesting, if I go out into a little bit farther, into the August 5th through 13th outlook, it does look like modest amounts of rain over parts of the Midwest. And keep in mind, this is way out there. Now, this goes out to mid-August. And let's look at the colors now. Green would be more modest precipitation, and that would fall in an area that needs modest precipitation. An exception is up here, a very strong dry signal over Minnesota and parts of North Dakota. Right now, that's indicating pretty much zero precipitation in this time frame. And then areas that have been wet, trending a little bit drier, and that area can definitely, Indiana, Ohio, that can use this dry spell right now with very little impact at all. So I think the key trend is let's get some modest rain in this area into the early to middle part of August. Hopefully that will occur, and it still looks like the axis of heavier rain is right down through here. So the takeaway points from today's briefing: we're in a persistent pattern. It looks like a 3-week pattern. We've been through week 1. Looks like another 2 weeks of this pattern at least. This will mean below normal temperatures, significant rain in some spots, mainly the east, and then uncertain in other locations. And I think that'll be the uncertainty is the placement of precipitation over parts of the Midwest. Right now it looks like Kansas into Missouri where it's needed, but hopefully that'll push up a little bit further north as well. Now, if you have any questions at all on anything I'm asking, or if you have anything you'd like me to maybe explain a little bit clearer next time, you can always email me, john@bluewateroutlook.com. And I'm working on my newsletter, so I should get that out this week, plus information throughout the week, including my outlook on Thursday. And I'll make sure I look at that long-range outlook on Thursday. It's been nice talking with you, and I will be giving another briefing next week.